Hello, how are you doing? Are you well? All good here. Hope you're all going to join me. But today, I am going to look at something that's really serious, that really is winding me up. And all you little left wing, and I can say this, stupid, ill-informed people who think it's trendy to wear that silly black and white check scarf and say free Palestine and all the rest of the things that you tend to get up to, and causing havoc on the streets and being led by the nose by radicals. This video is a little education for you, because throughout the whole world there's over 50 wars going on, and some have been going for a long time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to educate you to what really some of these wars are really genocidal wars. Not like Israel are doing it and trying to warn people go to a different place and do a different place, but if the cowards that Hamas are have to hide behind the women's skirts that they do, well, so be it. What can they do? They do the best that they can. I'm not going to go any further with that. I'm just going to say to you basically that today you're going to get educated. So I'm going to start off by covering a few of the wars that are going on in the world today, and to show you that your loyalty to Hamas is misspent loyalty, because some of these countries really do deserve protests, but they don't get it. They don't get the coverage because, I don't know, it's not trendy. But let's start off with this, shall we? Here, what you're looking at now is Myanmar, and Myanmar used to be called Burma. Now, since February 2021, military coup, Myanmar has experienced a severe escalation of human rights violations. The military use of lethal force against a non-violent protest in February and March 2021 provoked an armed uprising that continues to intensify. Now, in May 2022, bullets rained from the sky and war crimes and displacement in eastern Myanmar, and this was done by these are done by independents, not by Hamas, who do it on their own. By Amnesty International, found Myanmar military had subjected civilians to a collective punishment via widespread aerial ground attacks, arbitrary detentions, torture, extrajudicial executions, and the systematic looting and burning of villages. Now, the armed conflict location event data has been identified by ICLED, in fact. And it identifies Myanmar as the most violent among the 50 wars it tracks globally, with estimated death toll, wait for it, of over 500,000. Oh no, sorry, that's the next one. The next one, we'll come to that. Sorry, I'll repeat, over 50,000 since 2021, and a military crew including at least 8,000 civilians. Now that's going in a mile. I do apologise for saying 500,000. We'll have to clean the glasses, but it's 50,000. And atrocities are going ongoing and ongoing, and innocent people are getting killed. That's going on in Myanmar. It's all against the Rohingya people, ethnic cleansing. And if you read what the man's saying, you will see. So, that's the first war that I'd like to tell you about. So think on. Right now, you have people dying, suffering, being displaced, 50,000 death toll, and a real ethnic cleansing jobby. So let's move on to another one. I take this serious because you need to know these things before you start jumping up and down about what's going on in Palestine. There is a video which I haven't got the link to, but I'll try and put it on sometime in the future for you, of the history of how Palestine became Palestine. Anyway, we're going to move on, and this time we're going to have a look at Ethiopia. Now this is the one that I made a mistake on the figures, but I'm not going to make a mistake on the figures this time. Ethiopia. Okay, here we go. You watch the video and watch it carefully, and if you can, whilst I'm chomping on, you can read some of the captions there. But the brutal civil war in northern Ethiopia may have killed as many, and this is the right figure, as 600,000 people, making it one of the world's deadliest conflicts of recent times, according to the African Union's lead mediator in the peace talks that ended the 2-year conflict. Now, since agriculture is the main source of food in the country, let me just put this right. Sorry, I do have to do this because that's it. I do all the little films and things on my own. But anyway, we'll start that way again. Since agriculture is the main source of food in the country, the Amara and the Agu farmers earn income from producing staples. But due to the frequent drought occurrence, they are, however, stricken by poverty. More than 80% of them are traditional farmers. And in some instances, these groups are misrepresented as Orthodox Christians, although a significant proportion of them are Muslim and Jews. Now, both these groups have been systematically massacred. Now, there's no claims of genocide against the Agri people by anybody except themselves, and it requires an independent report. Now, it is going on, there's no doubt about it, and when you look back at how many people have been killed during this conflict, 600,000, that's near on the population of a small island, isn't it, have been killed in this conflict, and genocide is taking place. So, as you see here, if you just, I'll be quiet and just watch this last bit here, and what this man says. You can see the bodies on the floor there. Now you see they unloaded the trucks and they take them into the field and they shoot them. But watch this, what does he say next? Don't waste your bullets, let them die slowly. How awful is that? You're talking about genocide? Again, I'm going to make the point all the way through that the Israeli government have tried moving people up, down, sideways, back to front, but of course when they move them, these cowards of Hamas always move in with them and disperse themselves amongst innocent Palestinian people who probably don't want them there. Anyway, we have to move on. As you see, you think that Palestine's bad? There's more going in the world. People don't study what's going on in the world before you start getting involved in things that have got nothing to do with your country at all. Now, we're going to move on. I'm going to make you quite bored with this because I want you to take it all in. But we're going to look at Sudan. Now here we are, Job and Maria in Sudan. What is the current situation in Sudan? Well, Sudan's armed conflict has ignited one of the world's fastest unfolding crises. Out of 25 million people needing humanitarian aid, 14 million of those are children. The conflict has forced 8.6 million people to flee, creating the largest displacement of crisis globally from 18th of April 2024. Now, I don't want to go into it too much. I want to let you consider the genocidal, like I say, the genocidal progress of this one. 8.6 million people have had to flee. 25 million people need humanitarian aid. 14 million people starving, and all because of a stupid armed conflict, a stupid war. What? I don't understand why people go so crazy over what's happening in Israel. And I know it's bad that's happening, it's a war. But again, I'll reiterate what I said before, and that is that all the Jewish people want is to live in a country of their own and be left alone. And I have another question whilst you watch this. Whilst you watch this video here, I have another question. Why do you think that none of the borders out of Palestine are open so that people and innocent people can leave? Go and check your history books. Go and check what people have said. Egypt doesn't want them. Jordan doesn't want them. Nobody wants these people because they feel that they are people that will cause them trouble, because they have Hamas fighters in their midst. The other thing is, the leaders of Hamas sit in Oman, and they're quite happy to be sitting in Oman with their billions of dollars which they're given their various places, and to fund and help and all these rebel forces to attack the West one way or the other, and to attack Israel. So as I can say to you now, think on, watch the videos that I'm putting to you here, showing you that there's more going on in the world than you really know about. Now, the one that I find really disgusting is the next one, which is Syria. Now, Syria to me is one of the worst humanitarian massacres that you could ever want, and it's done by their own leaders. Genocide is not the word. It's just mass annihilation of people. 500,000 people have died since the start of the conflict. 228,000 of those are said to be civilians, according to the Syrian network of human rights. And nearly half of Syrians estimated 10 million have been displaced, and 3.5 million Syrians seeking refuge in other nations, including Turkey and Jordan. Now, there really people in Syria that Assad has been bombing hospitals, and he doesn't care, indiscriminately killing men, women, children, and he sits in his ivory tower and gets away. And the West and the rest of the world do nothing. And you protesters that wear the checkered headscarf, thinking you're some kind of fashionista, don't know anything about this. Don't do anything about any of what we've just been going through. I'm not going to say much more about this, because this particular area, because it's been going on for a while. Genocide, use the word correctly. This is what you call genocide. I look at these children, and little boys just said if he could get hold of Bashar Assad, he would turn into Hitler and he'd torture him. Look at the child. He's a child and has to talk like that. This is what genocide is, people. What you're watching now. Okay, so let's move on, shall we? We'll move on from Syria to one that's currently completely out of order, which is of course the Ukraine. Now, I'm not going to say anything about Israel, about figures, numbers or anything. I'll tell you why. Because they all come from Hamas and nothing's verified. There is women and children dying as they do in war. And the people who could stop this war tomorrow is Hamas. Pack up and leave. Put your arms down and go away and let people have a proper life. Anyway, Ukraine. We'll talk about the Ukrainian army casualties. They're unofficially estimated in August 2023 at 170 to 190,000, including 70,000 deaths, which are unaccompanied, unrealised whether the person's dead or alive. And that's according to the Institute of War. As of 22nd of February 2024, which is the latest data I could find, we're interested in civilians here. 30,457 civilians were killed and wounded. And since this came out in February, and I'm making this video now, virtually on the 1st of June, those figures are not correct, obviously. Now, they were killed and wounded, including 10,582 civilians killed in the conflict, including 587 children, and a total of 9,241 people have been killed by explosive weapons with wide area effects and mines and explosive remnants. Now. Putin, this warmonger, this man, KGB trained man who knows nothing only to conquer, is out there doing his worst. And he doesn't care. He wants to probably conquer Ukraine, and if the West let him, he will. And the West are too slow to help. And then the next will be probably he's got Finland on his doorstep that he can go to. He's obviously looking at Poland. And he will do it if he gets through there. So the West should be afraid. The West should be funding this. I know it's costing lots and lots of tax dollars, but it needs to be done, because if it isn't done, then what's going to happen? He's going to slowly creep forward. He's the equivalent of a Hitler's character. He wants to rule and power. In my last video I spoke about the trilateral axis, which was hard to explain, but if you put Russia, China and Iran together, plus all the other things that the other countries that they are embracing, you'll see. You should read up on that as well. Instead of going out on a Saturday or Sunday when you go protesting, read about the trilateral axis. That will give you some indication of what's happening in the world. Now I hope that I've educated you a little bit, and the next time you go on a protest, just think why you're doing it and why you're not doing anything for the countries I've just mentioned. And I could mention all 50, but I'm not going to. I think that's enough to show you what's going on. Now, we're going to change the subject a little bit now, and because I'm not making it a long video, I want basically to make it fairly quick and easy to watch. But you get the picture. These Russian people displaced, no houses, they've seen nothing but destruction. Ukrainian, I do apologise. Nothing but destruction. Their country's been torn apart. All they want to live in a democratic country and have all the benefits of a democracy. They don't want to be dictated to by a superpower that's just there to take them over, engulf them, and dictate to them, and alienate them from the West. All I can say is, there's a lot of badness going on in the world. I feel qualified to show you this because you're not looking, you people out there are not looking at the bigger picture and the wars that are going on and the innocent men, women and children who are being slaughtered, displaced, forced out of their country. It's time you woke up. Stop condemning Israel. I don't condemn the Palestinian innocent people, but until there's a way of protecting Israel from the constant barrage of attacks over the last 75 years, their war will never end. There's no end to that war. But we'll wait and see. Right, okay, I said I'm going to change the subject. Now, I'm going to talk about closer to home. And closer to home is all to do with the recent council elections that we saw across the country, across the UK, and lots of Muslim mayors being appointed as mayors in certain areas. Now, obviously, if the white, indigenous, or not even white, even the West Indian or whatever, indigenous people who've lived in the country all their lives and grown up with their children, blah, 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 become the minority, and then you get a radical organisation, Islamists, which are basically fifth column, which now is entering the UK. And it's unabated. People come in, and things are changing so rapidly. And then you've got people like Angela Rayner and others who are far left, Jeremy Corbyn, far left, who pander to these people who think England is the worst place you could ever live. And it looks like Angela Rayner could be the Vice Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, second in command, very soon of the elections. Well, I tell you people, you better stop it, because she doesn't care. She panders to them too. And how can she go to a mosque and sit down and go totally against, so far, the Labour Party's not recognising Palestine, and say off her own back, without the leader's information, or without the leader's permission, or was it? She could say something like this. I'd like you just to watch this first.
Now, I know that people are angry about what's happening in the Middle East, and I said live on TV, and I say to this day, if me resigning as an MP now would bring a ceasefire, I would do it. I would do it. And I'll be honest with you, if Labour get into government, we are limited. I will be honest. I'm not going to promise you, because Biden, who's the US, who has way more influence, has only got limited influence in that. And Qatar, Saudi Arabia, all of these people, we are all working to stop what's happening at the moment. We want to see that. So I promise you that's what we want to see. And if Labour get into power, we will recognise Palestine. I will push not only to recognise, but there is nothing to recognise at the moment, sadly. It's decimated. We have to rebuild Palestine. We have to rebuild.
We have to rebuild Palestine. I promise you, we will recognise Palestine. Sitting in a room full of Muslim men, they're not all Islamists, I'm sure, but there'll be some there. and saying, come on Angela, you're helping us to take over. We've had the elections, as I've just said before that, of many more Muslim mayors. And how can they say things like this?
We will not be silent. We will raise the voice of Gaza. We will raise the voice of Palestine. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Trevor Cap.
Now, he was elected as a mayor, and all of a sudden, promising to after she's done all that, she's gone there. We end up with mayors that are shouting Allah Akbar, and they're shouting that they're going to, free Palestine, when their job is to look after their constituents. Their job is to look after people in the UK. But they're using these platforms now to dig in even deeper. Believe me, the way things are going right now, I don't hold out much hope for the UK and Britain being what it was when I was a boy. And it seems to me that they're shouting about a war that's got nothing to do with councils in the UK. And they're left pushing all their sectarian beliefs. We will turn Bradford into, I don't know, a sectarian state. It's ridiculous. We're going to have a country full of mini-states now. Bradford, Leeds, Birmingham, Luton, taking over. These streets are ours now, they're not yours. They're taking over the country. Islamists. Not all Muslims are bad. Some Muslims try to fit in and try to get on with what they want to do. And they do. But then they're overridden by their communities, by the people who are trying to turn Britain into what the country they fled from is and was, still is. They try to turn England into the same type of country. And what is even worse, that if you vote for the Labour government, to get the Labour government in, it's going to speed things up tremendously, because they will pander to these people, because these people traditionally vote for Labour, and they are manipulating with Labour. So the great takeover has started, and the fifth column is already in the country. Can UK be saved? I doubt it. For me, it's RIP UK. Well, that's me done for today. Hope I haven't bored you too much, but I think somebody has to start standing up and saying what's going to happen if you people don't get off your backsides and reclaim your own country. If you want to get in touch with me about any of the videos or anything that I do, if you disagree or agree, whatever, it doesn't matter. All the ways of getting in touch with me are flashing along the screen there, and I'll be more than happy to hear from you. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to end the show. I'll leave it like that until the next time. It's the old Git here. Another rant under my belt, and hopefully you'll take note and you'll do something about what's happening in your country.